welcome to the new Experience Strategy podcast. We're so glad to be back with you. It's been a few months, and after releasing weekly episodes for years, we decided it was time to focus on some other projects, take a little break. But honestly, we missed this conversation with all of you. So we're back with some big surprises, a little bit of a format change, and hopefully some timely insights that we really think you're going to love.
Yeah. So for those of you that have listened for years, here's what you can expect. First, there's now 3 co-hosts. This is awesome, right? So you know Aransas and you know me. And joining us is Joe Pine. And I think everybody is thrilled to have Joe Pine, the author of The Experience Economy.
All 3 of us, anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, the 3 of us are thrilled, but
The
also
3 of us. Yeah.
our
Our
audience.
listeners. Absolutely.
We hope you're as excited as we are anyway.
You know him for his renowned books and his frameworks. He and Jim Gilmore are the ones that launched the Experience movement. So this is going to be fantastic. We're very excited to have him. The second thing that's changed is we're going to be leading a conversation about topics that have to do with the experience economy and transformation. We'll be sharing articles that are in the news, content that we're hearing about with you on a regular basis. This particular podcast, we're going to go from an hour, 40 minutes, I think is what we were at before, to about 20 minutes. So a really quick read for you, but it's all about your development as a strategist and staying on top of the things that are going on right now.
Yeah, the world is moving faster than ever. Things are changing faster than ever. And so for us, it feels really important to talk about what is in the conversation right now. And so, yeah, we'll still share all the insights we've gained over our long careers collectively. But we're going to be talking about it through the lens of what's happening in the world right this second so that you are equipped to lead or create experience strategy in your organization right this second.
Absolutely. And then the third change is we have sponsors. So you're going to hear.
We're so fancy.
We're so fancy, right? So we're excited to have sponsors on the program, and up till now we haven't really done that. So you're going to get a chance to be connected with some great organizations along the way, and there'll be some great opportunities that our sponsors are going to be providing for us. So
yeah, I mean, I think the thing that is really important to note about this, I mean, sponsors isn't necessarily exciting if you're an audience member, unless you know that the sponsors are the teams, the services, the products that your experience strategy team loves and uses and has either helped to create or influenced or just really believes in. And so this is just a way of us making sure that you know about the best of the best teams that we like to partner with.
Well, and as a new member to a team, I appreciate being here and everything. And I just have one question. Aransas, do you always match your dress with the background, or is that?
I try. And so if you're listening to this, you're like, what? Yes, I try. But it's also a really nice opportunity to plug the fact that these episodes are now going to be on YouTube. So, if you're not driving a car, you could listen to them then, are there and watch our antics on video.
Yeah. And of course, it's also a great opportunity to plug Aransas's Uplifters podcast as well. So, which is another one. If you're interested in, you can pay attention.
A very different topic, but thank you.
You can pay us later for that.
Thanks. This episode sponsored by the Uplifters podcast.
So, all right.
Score. All right, so let's get into our first episode so we can show these folks what we plan on doing in
Yeah.
most episodes. So you sent over our first article. So friends, the way this is going to work is we're each going to take turns picking an article that we think is really interesting. And so Dave kicked us off sharing an episode about Scheels. So give us a little grounding in the article itself, Dave.
So the Washington Post had a great article this week on Scheels, spelled Scheels. It's a retail store. Many of you in Middle America will be very familiar with it. This is a brand that we have been watching for a long time because they really do some of the things that Joe, you've talked about in the experience economy for a long time. And so we thought, why not start with this very interesting article? There's a lot of talk about prices going up, the uncertainty that's associated with retailing right now. Here's an article that the Washington Post is doing where they're saying this is a company that is very, very successful. And they have like indoor Ferris wheels, they have all kinds of different things. If you love taxidermy, it's the place for you. I'm not a big taxidermy fan myself, but it's definitely the place to go to. And so it will be really interesting. I wonder what the thinking was behind all of a sudden highlighting this particular store when there's so much going on in retail right now that is kind of scary.
Yeah, retail is collapsing for all intents and purposes. I mean, it has been, but I think we're seeing an even faster acceleration of that. And yet, to your point, they decided to cover this retail space, and so I do think that's the question here is like, why this? Why now?
Well, I mean, one, it's the Washington Post, so there's a political angle in here as well. But the big reason is that part of retail that does not collapse is that which is experiential. And
Ding, 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 ding.
there are
We need a
few
bell for this show,
stores.
Joe.
Thank you, thank you. I'll be here all week. There are a few stores who are as experiential as Scheels. It's funny when I read the article, Dave, I didn't even realize it was a Minnesota-based company. I mean, I've lived in Minnesota for 50 years and didn't know. But I've experienced it in Colorado Springs. Now I'm going to have to go to the one out in the west side of the Twin Cities. But they do specialize they're a destination, right? They're a place where people go to for hours. They're a place where people come from hours away to be able to get to because they know they can fill their time. One of the lines in the article I loved was saying that you're going to go there and spend $200. You just have no idea what you're going to spend $200 on because there's so much that's available. But one thing you will spend a part of that $200 on is admission fees. Right, it's not just that. Okay, here's a Ferris wheel, here's an aquarium, but they're charging admission. They're charging for hitting a golf ball, hitting a baseball in a batter's cage, doing archery, shooting guns, fishing, even in all of these. And it's amazing that you can go in there and spend a couple hours just on admission fee experiences. And what I call this, a lot of people use the term experience marketing. What I like to call these is rather they're marketing experiences. Major on the experience, right? They're particularly when they're charging admission. It is an experience, and admission fee signals that this is a place worth experiencing. You're paying for your time, but these particular experiences do the job of marketing by generating demand for all its offerings. And it's got like tens of thousands of SKUs inside this place. And because you're going to spend your time, very simple rule is the more time you spend in the place, the more money you're going to spend, right? It's all about the experience.
That's right. And I think one of the really important things they said related to that was it's raising the volume of sales in all of the surrounding stores. So if you want to revitalize your old mall, bring in an experience-based company. And so, yeah, there are these profound economic ripple effects of this.
I think about historically, what we've talked about, we've seen the evolution. There were a lot of companies that had experiential venues back in the early 2000s when you first started talking about this, Joe. And little by little, they have turned into just basic merchandising places. There are very few places that really encapsulate that idea of a destination that you would go and participate in. And Scheels does it. I wonder if, in part, the reason why they were successful is they learned from places like the Mall of America.
Hmm.
Like, they're from Minnesota.
They were inspired. Yeah.
They were inspired. People in Minnesota have to go to places in the winter.
In the winter, you need a place to go to.
Well, there you go. Like, that's designing for context.
Yeah, right.
And so, like, I want to talk about context and systems here.
Okay.
Right. So, first of all, like, this is a brand that is designed for systems.
Yeah, sure.
I love that line in the article. It says, it's like Target if they catered for dads.
Right.
Disney's not designed for dads. I mean, like, they added alcohol, lots of alcohol, to maybe bridge that gap. But and maybe, like, you could say the Star Wars exhibits but, like, it's not designed for each individual family member. And I think that's one of the things the article did really successfully, is it walked you through the perceived benefits of the experience itself for every single member of that family group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really.
And they talked about it being an after school place, an after work place, an after
church
place, especially. Right, it's a place you go to gather. They use the term third spaces. I think they meant third places in there, but for that certain segment of people in certain locations, particularly where it's colder in the winter, it definitely is that place where people gather together. They talk about how they see people that they know, even if they've never met, but oh yeah, there's that guy and there's that guy and so forth, and they gain relationships with the staff that are there, and it's employee owned, actually, right? Since 1991, I found out, and so every employee has a stake in it, and they do a good job of helping those employees flourish, and helping and I'll mention the communities as well. I mean, they talked about, like, I think it was the Fargo area where there's the Scheels Arena and the Scheels Performing Arts Center, and the Scheels this and the Scheels that. Because they spend their money and their employees volunteer to help create these things for different areas inside of the community.
To me, that goes back to the trust piece of this, right? So we just got results back from a new study looking at consumer trust. And for the first time in quite a few years, people said they feel more trust toward companies. I think we have a lot to do to get underneath why that is. I find it sort of surprising, and it's in some tension with the Edelman trust work, but I do think there are very clear indicators from all sides that these companies that feel like they're reinvesting in communities are the ones that earn trust that is sustainable. And this is just such a good example of that. But it's also something that literally every banking institution can do, every healthcare institution can do, right? And it's not like, remember when Starbucks was like, let's make every store feel like it's local. And it was like some designer from a faraway place's idea of how to make it look like that place. And that didn't feel authentic. But actually investing in what the communities care about, that's really smart trust building and really smart marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love everything about it. It will be really interesting to see where people spend their dollars if, in fact, we go into a recession. We don't know, or something along that line. Will places like this do well? I think so, because I think they are building relationships that are ongoing. I don't like to call them loyalty relationships. I like to call them time well spent relationships. So it'll be exciting to see what happens with Scheels. And way to go, Scheels. We really are impressed with what you're about.
Right. Well, and I'll mention too that your answers, you talked about brands put a lot of time into communities. Scheels is putting a lot of time into its actual communities, right? That
Yeah.
in its places surrounding them. It's not trying to make communities out of thin air, trying to
Right.
call an
Such a good
anonymous
distinction.
agglomeration of customers a community. No, this is
Mhm.
real people that come to the store, that know it, that do have loyalty, not because they have a loyalty program, but because they actually like what they do and they gain value from it. Like you said, because of the time well spent that they have in the place.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's authentic.
Some key
Going back
lessons for
to your authenticity.
REI. REI could have done this. They could have done something very similar,
Mm-hmm.
and they started down that path, and then they just kind of pulled back.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
yeah,
actually think one of the things I didn't know about this until you said it, Joe, that I think is really interesting is this idea of charging for these experiences, because most companies are looking at them as it's an investment in marketing, right? You can
Right.
draw people in. And then I'm thinking about back to the Nike experiential stores, right? They
That's the
spend
one
a
that came to my
ton,
mind too.
spending a ton of money to create these experiences, and then it's impossible to prove ROI. But if you charge for them, they can drive revenue directly.
Right. You turn marketing from a cost center into a profit center.
Correct.
Right. Dave, when you mentioned that earlier about the retail stores that used to do it, Nike Town is what came to my mind. I particularly remember the second one. First one I did was in Portland. Second one they did, and the first one I went to was in Chicago, and they actually had a line outside the door because
yep.
they're at capacity to get in. And immediately I went, oh, they must be charging admission, right? No, they weren't.
Wow.
But but you go in there and there's a lot of experiential things inside those original stores, including a whole area dedicated to a basketball court where they'd even bring basketball players. Remember, Dennis Rodman was there one time. They'd shoot commercials actually in the store and people loved being there, but they never charged admission. And what that meant is it was a cost center. And in the next downturn, right, no matter how big it is, they're going to look at costs. They're going to go, well, like you said, Aransas, we don't know how much ROI we're getting out of it. So let's cut that out. And I remember that I go to Chicago often, and first there were like little fixtures and tables, right, that impinged on the basketball area, right, a little too close. Then they got on the basketball area. Then they replaced the basketball, right? The hoop was gone and everything, and that's why I said, okay, they've lost it, right? They don't understand the power of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got to do sales per square feet. That
Right,
number, that's
right.
the only number that they have to work with, and that's what killed it
It
for so many
cheapens it
retailers.
too, though.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah. It cheapens it for the customer
Oh,
too.
it totally does. Totally does. So
We have just a few more minutes, so I want to go back to this idea of context that you threw out with Minnesotans need something to do when it's cold. And it's related to what do we do after church,
right.
right?
Yeah. No, it's like where do you go and what do you do to fill your time? And I lived in Minnesota for 10 years. That's where I met Joe. And
That was all. It seemed like you're here forever.
yeah, so thanks for that. And I remember, like, what do you do with the kids? Where do you go? You can go to Mall of America, and it's great because it's indoors.
Right. And it's
Uh,
experiential, right? You get all those experiences you have at the Mall of America.
how is Mall of America doing? Are they still doing well?
It is doing pretty well. I don't know about in the near past, last 12 months or whatever, but it has been doing pretty well.
Yeah.
They increasingly have more and more experiences. You have occasionally places like the Mayo Clinic coming up and putting in a retail place, again, mostly as a branding exercise, get people used to and think about that Mayo Clinic is not, we often think of Minnesota as this intimidating place because people fly in from all over the world to it and it's not for us, and they said, no, it is. And it's like other mall there. It's now like when it first came about. I think it was the mall outside of the Edmonton Mall where the founders of it originally came from in Edmonton, Canada. The mall with the greatest square footage dedicated to experiences. And now there are now malls that have over 50% of the square footage dedicated to
Wow.
experiences. It's just
Not only experiences, transformations, right? We're going to talk about that in the podcast as well. That you walk into a mall and you're going to get a makeover. You're going to get a massage. You're going to, those aren't exactly
go to a fitness
transformational,
center, go
right?
to have a longevity diagnostic.
You're going to go to a clinic. Like there's a lot of things that are going on in malls because they're not selling merchandise.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because essentially that's what Scheels is. It's a mall.
Yeah,
Right, all my
well,
stuff,
Just a
all my
mall, right?
stuff.
It says it had multiple stores within it, right? They put each
Right.
of their brands, it sounds like, into a different
Stores within stores.
area.
yeah,
And that gives them such control over the experience and over the integration of all of these experiences so that they can balance it in a way that a mall really couldn't, right? A mall was dependent on the branding of each individual store, what they wanted to do. And so it does, I think, give them, it gives us a new way of thinking about what it means to create a multi-purpose shopping center. And that, I think one of the points I took from this is that that's especially important in areas with lower population density. Um, and we get more specialists in these super population dense areas like the Northeast.
yeah,
Y'all, this was fun. I think we're off to a good start.
yeah. I do too.
And we have a very self-serving sponsor this week. In the future. No, even closer to home, Joe, if you can imagine. This episode is brought to you by the Experience Strategy Collaboratives. Now, we want to tell you a little bit about that, jokingly, but also in total seriousness here. And then let's wrap up by sharing top takeaways from this episode to shortcut that for people so they don't have to go and do that themselves. So most of you know that Joe, Dave, and I are heavily involved in the creation of something called the Experience Strategy Collaborative. So Dave is the founder, Joe is a key contributor, and I'm the lead strategist on the program. But you may have no idea what collaboratives are or what we're even talking about there. So just a quick word on this. It's an amazing program. My involvement actually started as a client and customer of the program, and then I loved it so much that when I left the organization I had hired to participate in the collaboratives, I decided to join on with Dave and Joe and the team. It's a once a year-long program that helps strategists build better experiences. And it's really for both individuals and teams, but also for teams and how they work together. So the way it works is that you and your company would join the program, and then you'd pick a program or an initiative that you are excited by, that you think has meaningful potential for your organization. And then we do the research on your behalf. Now, at the same time, other non-competing companies, so companies that aren't within your sector, join the program, and you share research across teams so that we're synthesizing big insights beyond just the individual insights we're doing for you and your initiative. Each quarter, we have summits somewhere in the country. The next one is in Milwaukee in a couple of weeks. And you get to learn from other people in other industries, building really terrific relationships with other experienced strategists. You can build really terrific relationships with other brands that you might collaborate with in the future. And then in between each of those summits, we're off doing research on your behalf to advance your initiative, as well as that of the other companies. So this year, our theme is only companies with a point of view survive. Companies like Scheels. I think all of us would be willing to bet on Scheels right now. And, this is not a stock trading podcast, but I'm considering. But for our listeners of this podcast, we do have an amazing experience to offer. So for one lucky listener, we'll be giving away a one-person membership to the program. That's a $35,000 value. And you get to participate in the collaboratives for free. So here's how this is going to work. You have to subscribe to the Experience Strategist Substack. We'll put that link in the show notes, so you can click it there in order to be eligible. And we've posted an entry form in the show notes as well. Go ahead and enter that, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you and connecting with you and sharing this amazing program with you as we kick off this new chapter of the Experience Strategy podcast. You can enter to win through, very important, June 30th, 2025. So if you're listening to this after that point, submit anyway. Let us know. Maybe we'll do the contest again, or at least we'll make sure that you're the first one to hear about it when we do. But for now, go ahead and put your info in there. All right, quick takeaways. Here's my top 4. Number 1, go to Scheels. Check it out. Number 2, charge for experiences, or at least think about it. Right? Think about what that could mean for adding value to your experience and creating a sense of value for your customer. 3, design for your customers' systems. They are not operating alone and making decisions alone in the world. And number 4, like, they've got things going on other than you and your experience. So think about their context and design for that. Anything to add, guys?
Well, you took a bunch of them, but I would say don't just go to Scheels, go to others that do this as well. Other marketing experience. Take in your local town, city, neighborhood, wherever you are. Go out on an experience expedition and experience it. Take your team out there and be able to see what companies are doing, and then understand the principles that they're applying to their business, like charging admission for an experience, and see how you can apply those principles to your own business.
Love that. This was fun, guys.
Right.
We have a little work to do on this 20-minute thing, but we're close. I'm proud of us.
We could close.
Thanks for listening. As always, we want to hear from you. Reach out to us at stonemantle.co. No, there's no M. Just a .co, just for you. Reach out. You'll find us there.
Thanks for collaborative.
Collaborative. Thank you, Joe. That was good. We're going to say that all the time now. All right. Thanks for listening. So happy to be back with you.